circumstances, but to what extent do you feel that what we're seeing is still a protest vote rather than the beginnings of what could be a realignment in British politics?
Well, I'm beginning to think it could be a realignment of British politics, and we're talking about the people shifting, but I think it's a natural consequence of both Tory and Labour Party changing their clothes. I mean, nothing is as it was when people had that loyalty, that tribal loyalty, cut me and I bleed Labour kind of thing. So I think what surprised me was the way the polls sustained and the fact they are still sustained. And I think that what happened is there's a kind of match between the nation's mood and fed-upness together with something that came on the stage out of the blue, and that was it.
Yes, I mean, I think sort of come the hour, come the man to some extent. And I think that, you know, let's not get into the whys and wherefores of Clegg as a politician. But what his bounce does reflect is an awareness, I think, in the British electorate of this growing presidential character in British politics.
Which the debates brought to the fore.
Yeah, but in fact, it's a paradoxical thing. On the one hand, you have politicians saying we need to reinvigorate Parliament, we need to reinvigorate our democracy. And on the other hand, they in the political class and the media to some extent are going, you know, hell for leather into supporting this presidential debate.
Such disillusion. It was Blair going off, doing his own thing.
Well, that may be, but the more important point, because that's purely process, the more important point is this doesn't look like it's just a flash in the pan. This could be the new architecture of British politics. We could now be in permanent three-party politics.
I think it'd be very bizarre if you didn't get a hung parliament out of this, unless there's some big shift in the next few days.
Well, that's a new architecture.
And that is a new architecture, and therefore, suddenly, for the poor old Lib Dems who've wanted this for so long, they actually had to make a choice, you know. I don't know what Lim wants to do, which of the two parties you want to put in, but you won't be able to get away with just, you know, being all things to all people anymore.
Well, we're going to talk about the politics of coalition later. What I want to come on to now is you said that we're in denial about the scale of the cuts, and someone should speak the truth, and then will the British public be prepared to, or what was it in that famous movie, Can They Handle the Truth, Jack Nicholson. But actually, this has been tried already. The Tories launched their Age of Austerity at the Conservative Conference in October. They thought they were telling the truth. It seems that the focus groups didn't like the truth. You've not heard Age of Austerity from Mr. Osborne.
No, that's right. It's what is called in medicine an iatrogenic disease, a doctor-created disease. I mean, I think there is an element of collusion here between the electorate as a patient and the political class.
You don't want to be told the worst.
They don't want to be told the worst.
We can't handle the truth.
It's way too heavy. I think everybody, you know, who looks...
Let's not talk ourselves into some manic depression here. I mean, the debt we've got is about a third what it was at the end of the Second World War. No one's going to pay this debt down by cuts or tax increases. It's got to be paid by getting sustained growth in the economy. That's why Brown is right when he talks about investing rather than cuts. Without investment, you'd be doing what the Japanese
He's cutting
did.
investment. Public investment was going to fall by 50% between now and 2014. That's in the government plans.
I know, and this is the area where there'll be the biggest, debate about where cuts fall, because as we saw when Mrs Thatcher got in, they concentrated the cuts on investment because there isn't the immediate political pains.
What the Chancellor of the Exchequer, Alistair Darling, said was that the cuts would need to be worse than they were under Margaret Thatcher, and I agree with that. I mean, I remember those years, and this situation seems to me to be worse. But I love the way people like you talk, as though, you know, we were immune from the rest of the world. I mean, have you seen what's going on in Greece? Public sector salaries are being slashed. All taxes are going up. Ireland's happening. In Spain, they're already saying, look, we're cutting so fiercely, you don't have to come in, oh, IMF, you don't have to come in, oh, European Union, and do it for us because we're already cutting vigorously. So why is it that the British are going to be able to avoid all this?
Because the scale of debt, the accumulated debt of Greece and Italy and Spain is enormous. Ours is about the same level as America and France and Germany. It's about 60% of our annual budget. Now, that is manageable. It isn't manageable in Greece. Italy is, what, 180%? Those aren't manageable. That was the problem the Japanese got into.
Is he in denial as well?
I think he is. I mean, you know, it's this age-old distinction between the structural and the real deficit, isn't it? It's a question of our government depends on writing more paper essentially, than the American government does. And Americans still have a buyer for their paper. But just to pick Ken up on, and Michael up on a point here, I think I'm correct in thinking that the real size of the Thatcherite cuts was in fact around 2% in real terms of expenditure. We're talking about something much bigger. I don't think you actually are in denial about this, Michael, but to go back to austerity Britain and the Attlee administration, are people really prepared for a return to the bread ration? You know, is that what we're talking about? You're not really comparing like with like here, or expectations with expectations.
No, Ken's still got his ration book. he's been dying to use it ever since rationing stopped. We need to move on. I'm sorry. Will Self, thanks for being with us again.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Now, coming up.